Damn. just curious to see, you can, it's not like you, so.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is right about 11:42, I think. No, it's 11:40 exactly. We're going to call to order this Wednesday, August 18th meeting of the Executive Board of the Greater Nashville Regional Council. Thank you all for being here. Welcome. And I hope everyone is doing well and that your communities are doing well. I know it's tenuous times again, so thank you all for what you're doing there. We're going to begin with the approval of the previous meeting minutes. You have those minutes in your packet, and they are from the June 16th, 2021 meeting. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pitts with the motion.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Holt, second. Any additions or corrections? All right. With that, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. All right. Thank you all very much. Right now, we will go into public comment. If there is any member of the public who wishes to comment, you may do so at this time. Okay. Seeing no one indicating that they wish to comment, we will move along. We do have two informational items. Well, first, before we do that, I do want to say thank you, Congressman Rhodes, for being here. I don't know if your time allows you to stick around for the whole meeting. And I also would say, if you want to say anything, we would love for you to.
Well, thank you, Mayor Brown. It's a privilege and pleasure to be here and don't represent all of the areas represented by this group, but know many of you from other areas. Great privilege and honor to represent the people in part of all 19 counties that comprise the congressional district. And it's interesting to see you operating. I wish Washington functioned a little bit more like this group does, and I think you all understand that. That's not always the way it happens. So I know we in Washington, and I fight this, but we kick a lot of problems down and we figure out the really tough aspects of, and so I appreciate seeing the thoughtful way that you're approaching these issues. Thank you, Mayor Brown, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in the meeting, and I'll try to hang around for a while and learn from what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Congressman Rhodes. That's very gracious. Those of us who do live in areas represented by you appreciate you very much. And like Mayor Vogel said earlier, we really appreciate your representatives in the field because they serve us so very well, and we appreciate their engagement and interest in our individual issues. So thank you. Okay, so we now are going to go into the approval of the monthly financial report, and I'm going to introduce our Finance Director, Megan Nelson, to present that to you all.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mayor Brown. The budget summary report that's presented on the screen is available within your packet, so we do encourage you all to look through that report in depth. But today I want to review and introduce key metrics that we're going to incorporate moving forward. The finance team has thought through, quality analytics and analysis that we want to bring to the group that gives an indication of GNRC's financial viability. And so thank you. So on the screen, we have 6 key metrics, with the first one being membership dues. So as you see on the screen, as of June 30th, 96% of membership dues have been paid, which is excellent. However, we do have 4% remaining, totaling approximately $49,000 to $50,000. So action is being taken to recoup those funds. However, if you are in an area where you know that your dues are outstanding, definitely coordinate with us so we can get that resolved. Moving on. Overall, 74% of the budget has been expended, and that's over a 12-month period. And so the total expenses year to date are approximately $14.3 million. The remaining 26%, which comes in at around 4.9, is largely driven by the carryover remaining funds that we have within the aging program as it relates to CARES funding. And so both finance and the aging program are collaborating together currently to strategize and pretty much compile a plan of action to allocate those funds going into FY 2022. As it relates to cash on hand, for those that aren't familiar, cash on hand is just a metric that represents the amount of time, and in this instance, days, that GNRC has to address its operating expenses based on the cash available. And through the period June 30, GNRC had 168 days of cash on hand. Now, while this does seem like a lot, the majority of these funds are restricted for programmatic purposes. But the finance team will still continue to assess GNRC's liquidity to ensure that we're operating within the confines of the resources that are provided. Moving on, our total cash savings for the period is approximately $3.78 million, and it's made up of three sources: capital funding, dedicated match, and cash reserves for operations. 29 of the 35 program budgets, or 82% of our programmatic budgets, ended as of June 30 within budget, with 6 programs under 17% of the budgeted programs over budget. And Michael will go into immediately after this just a little bit of information on those 6 programs that were deemed over budget. And lastly, as far as outstanding payments from invoices, as of June 30, we had approximately $745,000 in outstanding invoice payments. However, 95% of those payments are related to the aging program and should likely reflect in July and August cash balances. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I want to commend Megan and the finance team for pulling together these metrics. I think many of you thinking about being overwhelmed, as we did at the Transportation Policy, are typically overwhelmed by the 30-page financial report that we produce. Of course, we simplify that for the packet, but I think moving forward, we're going to be focused on these 6 core metrics at each meeting, and we're also working with our Finance and Personnel Committee to identify other metrics that you might be interested in seeing either every month or every other month or a couple of times a year. So any feedback that you have on these metrics in terms of what they mean to you, your ability to interpret them fully, just let us know. I do want to go into a little bit more detail with respect to one of the metrics, which is at the end of the 12th month of the year, which is June 30th for us, for our fiscal year. We did end up being in the negative or did fall short from a budget standpoint on 6 of the programs that we manage. I will say this is not a surprise. These are programs that are they're always high risk for a development district to take on, but that's our job, is to take on these high risk programs where there are not other agencies to pursue those on your behalf. I can't see the screen, but I think I have them memorized by now. At the top of the list is going to be our local planning program. This is not a grant-based program. This is a fee-for-service program that we provide based on a subscription fee that we charge local governments who are interested in us staffing their local planning commissions and boards of zoning appeals across the region. This is a position that GNRC is in because of the decision that the state made under the prior administration to dissolve the local planning office that used to be housed within the state Economic and Community Development Department. So when they dissolved the local planning office, which was providing the planning support to a variety of local communities across the state asked the development districts, we're one of 9 across Tennessee, to step up and provide that support. In the early years, I think 3 years of that transition period, that the state provided some supplemental funding to the development districts to pay for the cost of those services. But eventually that money went away, and we began to charge the local governments directly for those services. And we priced that fairly well for our local communities, and I think you would understand why. These tend to be smaller communities with very limited budgets, so we try to do the best we can to provide the service to them at a very reasonable cost. What's happened in recent years, though, or even the smallest communities are experiencing rapid growth and development. So the burden placed on planning commissions and BZAs across the region has really increased, and it's increased our staff time to support these communities. And so this is one of the programs that often, at least in the last couple of years, is ending in the red. And we've been able to absorb that, generally speaking, through the membership dues that you pay, and then some of the assistance that we get from the state ECD otherwise. But we have worked with these local government subscribers and through our Finance and Personnel Committee on a fee increase going into next year of about $1,000 per community to try to make this program a little bit more sustainable into the future. These other programs are all derived from grant programs that we administer either on behalf of a local government or on behalf of the state or federal governments. Some of these are fee-for-service as well. The home grant, this is a HUD-funded program for home repair that is administered in Tennessee through the Tennessee Housing Development Agency, who then awards that money out to local governments. In a lot of cases, those local governments will turn around and hire GNRC to administer those programs for them. And what that means is that we'll be the ones to advertise the programming to low-income homeowners across the region, get them interested, get them qualified, run the inspections on their homes to figure out what repairs are necessary and eligible for the home grant program, find the contractors through the bidding process prescribed by the local government, inspect the work on the back end, and then get the contractor reimbursed. So that's the role that we're playing within the home grant program. Our reimbursement is capped at 6% of the grant funds that are going to the local community. So we've got a ceiling there in terms of what we can draw down to pay for the services that we're providing. So that's a program that occasionally will dip into the red as well. The next couple, the Arts-Built Communities and Tourist Development, these are contracts that we have with 2 state agencies to help them administer their awards to local governments. The first is with the Tennessee Arts Commission. They rely on us to work with many of the counties in Middle Tennessee who are interested in receiving grants from the Tennessee Arts Commission to invest in through the Arts-Built Communities program, which is typically lower cost art installations that help build a sense of place and help contribute to quality of life and make the community more attractive for outside investment. And so we actually have to match the funds that we get from the Tennessee Arts Commission to administer the program on their behalf. But it's about $6,000 a year that we get from that agency to administer that program regionally. And so that often does dip into the red. And that's a sort of a known risk going into it. But again, the state relies on us to provide this program and to connect you to the dollars coming out of that state agency. The next one is a similar relationship that we have with the state, the Tennessee Tourist Development, Department of Tourist Development. They have money that they make available to you all as local governments, local chambers, CVCs, and privately owned tourism asset destinations across the region. They have money to help you market those assets, and they rely on us to make good decisions about where that money is going to go across our region. And so they pay us to administer that program, a fairly modest amount. We do our best to stay within that budget, but we do end up going over on that program, typically year over year. The next is the SHIP Medicare Counseling Program, which doesn't typically come in over budget. I think this is more of an accounting situation here, where we're going to be shifting some of the expenses from one grant that pays for Medicare counseling. And I should say SHIP. Most folks don't know what that means. I think when I joined GNRC, I saw an advertisement for it. We were hiring a SHIP coordinator. I was like, I didn't know we we hired captains to drive boats. But SHIP is the national network of Medicare counselors, of which we are part of. And so we do Medicare counseling across Middle Tennessee. Through that SHIP program, we get 3 grants from the federal government through the Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability to provide those services. And so this will be a cost allocation issue. We'll be able to get ourselves out of this hole fairly easy. And then the last grant I do want to make mention of, it's in a similar boat as the Arts Commission and Tourist Development grants, where we were hired at a relatively low rate of about $25,000 a year to have a full-time historic preservation planner on staff to help communities pursue designations and rehab projects. And this is actually a program that we ended up eliminating through discussions with our Finance and Personnel Committee as we went to adopt the current year budget back last September. So this is no longer a program, but we did incur some expenses in the first few weeks of the fiscal year as we wrap that up and return that back to the state. So those are the 6 programs of the 35 after the full fiscal year ran its course, where we ended up in the red. Very proud of everybody's work on all of our programs, including these programs especially, which are very much challenged in terms of resources. So we ask a lot of our staff on these particular programs. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about any of this. We're going to have a big conversation about our budget at the annual meeting, which I'll preview for you here a little bit later on in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Skipper. Do you all have any questions for him regarding those overages or about the financial report? I know we discussed it at the meeting last week, and certainly I feel like they're all valuable programs that make sense for us to, lack of a better word, subsidize. But, you know, if you have questions or feedback or different thoughts, please let us know. Okay, moving along, I'll entertain a motion to approve the monthly financial report as presented.
So moved, Madam Chair.
A motion by Mayor Holt. Thank you. Second over here, Lee. Thank you. Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. The monthly financial report is approved. Moving on to informational items, the first one is becoming a champion for the volunteer program. Rebecca Noki is going to present that. Hello again, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Nofi. I'm the volunteer coordinator. I'm excited to share about our volunteer program with you today. So why does GNRC involve volunteers? You might ask that. And first, we have an historic obligation to use volunteers for some of our aging and disability programs. So one of them is the Medicare counseling program, and then also the guardianship program. Both have a volunteer component in their grant. And then also we really see the opportunity to use volunteers to extend the reach of our programming, build out more capacity for GNRC, and empower the people in our communities to make a difference and be part of the change, and also to create a sense of community across the region through volunteers. I wanted to share some highlights of the volunteer program with you from our last fiscal year. I think it's important for you as board members to know about the volunteer program and know about the impact that our volunteers have. The numbers you see on the screen here are for the fiscal year 2021, and I've compared it to the previous fiscal year. So in the last fiscal year, we had 19,000 hours of volunteer service, actually a little bit more than that, which is equivalent to about 9.85 full-time employees that we would have had over the year. The hours of volunteer service have increased by 120% compared to the previous fiscal year. We had 1,173 active volunteers who work with any of our GNRC programs. I did not include any partner programs in that number. We do have other agencies that partner with us and post the opportunities in our volunteer. The active volunteer number has increased by 160% from the previous. And if you use the independent sector rate to value volunteer time, that gives us $471,250 worth of volunteer time. And thinking about these numbers, I'm really proud about what our volunteers have accomplished. I think this is really a significant number and significant savings that GNRC was able to have through those volunteer programs. I have talked previously here to the board about our Volunteering Matters campaign. This is a campaign that we have led for about the last 2 years to encourage volunteering in our communities and recruit more volunteers to help fulfill needs in the GNRC areas and programs. And I'm now also working to increase our reach across the Middle Tennessee region. The last year and a half, as many of you probably have experienced, the pandemic, tornadoes, flooding, we've really seen the need for volunteers to step up and meet those community needs. And all those needs really reaffirm that Volunteering Matters campaign across the region. Volunteers are not only critical in those turbulent times, they also, research demonstrates that a strong connection between organizations that operate with volunteer engagement as a core strategy leads to higher mission accomplishment and the overall health of the organization and effectiveness. So using volunteers really has more than just looking good benefits. It really has big financial benefits for the organization. And unpaid volunteers are usually the glue that then hold our communities together. And I guess a lot of you have probably seen volunteers step up to all the recent needs that we've had in our communities. And I'm interested to see how you working with volunteers in your communities. So maybe we can go by show of hands. Do you use volunteers as part of your work in your county office? And for those of you who do you have somebody dedicated in your office to work with those volunteers? Nobody does. Okay, interesting. And do you regularly get requests from your community about needs that need to be met that volunteers may be able to meet? Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I have some good news for you, because we have developed a program that should help you in using more volunteers in the efforts across our community. Since January 2021, so beginning of this year, we are part of the Tennessee Service Network. I'm not sure whether that is familiar, but it's a statewide collaboration of volunteer centers who are dedicated to bringing people and communities together through an easily accessible online portal. The initiative was first launched by Volunteer Tennessee and Tennessee First Lady Maria Lee. And the goal was to create a statewide network of opportunities to engage more Tennesseans in service and have a way to host opportunities and recruit volunteers in one accessible format. And through the grant that we have received with Volunteer Tennessee, our volunteer portal is now connected with the statewide volunteer portal. So any opportunities that are posted on our site will also be posted on their statewide site, and it kind of links back and forth to each other. So anywhere where volunteers go to find opportunities, either page that will be directed to opportunities in our county. Volunteer Tennessee has kind of created volunteer centers for different counties, and we are the designated volunteer center for Cheatham, Dixon, Humphreys, Robertson, Sumner, Trousdale, Williamson, and Wilson counties. Those were counties that were still not claimed by another volunteer center, and since they are all in our service area, we are the dedicated center for those areas. We will still provide services for the other members of our area, our region, of course, but I'm going to focus on those counties first, since there's no other volunteer center that is dedicated or designed to provide services for those areas. The volunteer portal is part of our Volunteering Matters campaign, and the goals are first to make it easier for volunteers to find volunteer opportunities in their community, and then also to support nonprofit agencies in the service area with volunteer engagement and reporting. If you have not looked at the portal, I really encourage you to go to gnrc.org/volunteer and kind of look around, check out the different opportunities posted there. Here is an example. I've pulled up Wilson County to show you opportunities that are in that area. So volunteers are able to search for opportunities just in their specific county if they like, and then they can also filter by specific skills that they have. They can look for just opportunities that are of a virtual nature or can be done remote from their homes, or they can look for family-friendly opportunities and things like that to make it very easy for them to find opportunities that are interested for them. And if volunteers create a profile for themselves in the system, then it can also match them to opportunities that are according to their skill set or the interests that they have selected in their volunteer program. This is the volunteer program partnership benefits. I want you to kind of remember them as you're talking to agencies in your county, so you can kind of tell them why they should join and be part of this initiative. Partner agencies who create a profile and then opportunities on the site will gain more visibility by creating an agency profile and then being able to share their opportunities not only through the GNRC site, but also on the statewide website. Agencies also have a great platform to share their mission and vision with a broader audience. Any volunteer or anybody who goes onto the site can look at all the different organizations on there and really learn more about each organization. And for volunteer coordinators at any of the agencies or nonprofits in your area, they can manage their volunteer opportunities. They can schedule volunteers for shifts that they have available. They can track volunteer hours and message volunteers directly to the portal. And they can also run reports. So if they're having any grant reports due at the end, or they want to know what kind of impact they have made across all the programming that they have provided to volunteers, they can pull those reports out of the system or export it into Excel formats. If they're using other systems, it can all be taken out of the portal. Volunteers can access the opportunities through the web application, but then there's also a free app that one can download to sign up for opportunities and get like push notifications on their phone if they're interested in that. And down the road, I'm hoping that GNRC can also provide some volunteer engagement support to those professionals who work with volunteers across the agency, and give presentations or product trainings to kind of help them and support them more. And now I'd like to ask for your help. Since this program is still kind of new, we're really working on getting more agencies across the area into the system, especially in those 8 counties that we are designated for, so we can have a good amount of opportunities for people to sign up to. And then we want to spread the word to all the people in the counties, so that they can find opportunities and know that this is a place that they can go. We have created a page on our website, gnrc.org/VPP, which will take you to the Volunteer Program Partnership site. It will have some training video of how you can manage volunteers in the system. It has the partnership agreement and some other information on there. We also want to encourage you to share information on social media and other networking platforms. After this meeting, we will send you an email with some things you can share on social media and some graphics. So if you would pass them on to whoever does your social media, that would be greatly appreciated. And I'd also be very happy to come to any roundtables in your county and speak with any of the agencies that would be interested in joining the platform. So if you can make any connections for me, that would be wonderful. And then, of course, if anybody asks you and comes to you with a need that they have, but they need volunteers, I encourage you to just send them to the volunteer portal and create their site and be part of it. I think it's really sad to see that here for Tennessee in volunteer engagement, I think we're like somewhere in the 30s, and we're the volunteer state. So let's climb up to the number 1 in, using volunteers across the region and getting our communities involved in volunteering. Anybody have questions?
Any questions from Ms. Duffy? I will say, I think more volunteering happens and gets accounted for, but, this is valuable for any organizations, particularly they're looking to track their volunteer efforts, but also to attract people. I did just download the app. I hope you'll do the same. Play with it. Questions, anyone? Comments, Mr. Skipper, anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to point out that, Rachel or Rebecca is really the leader on this initiative across the state. I mean, she's really the model that everybody's aspiring to in terms of mobilizing volunteers to do things that sort of we usually try to tackle in the public sector. So please do reach out to her. Contact information is on the screen. I know Mayor Hutto, you were very instrumental in thinking about how to approach this from a local perspective, and I think you could attest to Rebecca's professionalism and level of expertise when it comes to coordinating volunteer efforts and trying to get something up and running as a resource to the community. So I just wanted to thank Rebecca.
Thanks. And I forgot, I did have a flyer, so if you want to take one on the way out, to just kind of keep all this in mind, they're on the table right there.
You want to send that out to us digitally? That's
Sure.
great. Yes, because then, that specific correspondence, then we can shoot it to the right people within our community. But thank you, very informational. It's still impressive. I know you want bigger numbers, but it's still impressive what y'all accomplished, especially last year with the growth. So thank you for that. Next, Mr. Skipper is going to preview our annual meeting, which is coming up next month.
Thank you. As we get into this item, I know there's another meeting in here to follow us. We are coming down the home stretch. I'll try to do this as briefly as possible, but we do have some information here that is important to you all as we approach the September 22nd annual meeting of the full council body that I'd like to go through today. And Congressman Rose, you are welcome to that as well. It'd be a fantastic luncheon that we have with mayors across Middle Tennessee. So a few highlights on for the agenda that day up on the screen. I'll come back to this slide here in a second. We've got some standard business items that the full council body is required to take. We'll be electing officers. We'll be certifying this body, which is the executive board. So as you all know, there's a full council body made up of all the city and county mayors across 13 county footprint, plus some other folks that I'll mention here in a second. You are all empowered to act on behalf of that full council body on a monthly basis, carry out the work program that's adopted. So that's the other big thing we'll have on the slate that day is the adoption of our annual budget and work program that describes all the activities that we're going to be undertaking throughout the year. And then we'll also have a few programming highlights. We'll have a keynote address that we're going to have ready for you, try to inspire us back to the table as we tackle some things as a region now that we're back in person. We'll also present to you a year in review and the annual report that Michelle and the communications team always does such a fantastic job with. And then lastly, a really important business item, which is the adoption of a major update to the regional economic development strategy that the full council is empowered to adopt on behalf of the entire region. It's really the gateway for our region to access money with the Department of Commerce at the federal level, who's very much interested in investing in infrastructure at the local level for job creation and retention. So that's a presentation that you'll hear from Ms. Hubbard, our Director of Economic and Community Development, and Mayor Durrett, who is leading an advisory committee that's putting that together for your consideration next month. Going back to the screen prior, we will be holding this at the George Jones Museum and Restaurant. We had our annual meeting there a couple of years ago. We had really great feedback on the space. We're able to separate the business meeting from the luncheon, so we'll be back in that space. This is September 22nd. The business meeting will be at 10:30. A keynote lunch at 11:15. We'll aim to wrap up by 12:45 and get you on your way. Couple of things I need everybody to be thinking about as we approach the meeting. There's a little bit of homework for everybody. But as I get into that, I just want to remind everybody about the geographic footprint of our region. It is 13 counties, largely northern Middle Tennessee. Some of the programming that we bring to you each month has different geographies associated with it. For example, Murray County is included in our transportation planning work, and then there are several additional counties included in our solid waste planning efforts. These 13 counties, the full council body that will be convening is going to be comprised of the 52 city mayors across those counties. Each of the 13 county mayors are on that full council body. Each county mayor is empowered to appoint two members, two citizens from their county, one to represent issues of business and commerce and one to represent issues of social equity.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Is that a problem for you all? And somebody to represent issues of social equity inclusion. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So you've got 26 citizens essentially appointed by 13 county mayors on that full council body. And then we've got two state legislators who serve on the full council, one from the House, the Tennessee State House, and one from the Tennessee State Senate. And we typically work with the speakers of those bodies on the appointments there. Although your input on the legislators that you think are more appropriate for the regional conversations is always welcome. So a couple of things that we want y'all to be thinking about is the county mayor appointments. So like I mentioned, each county mayor will be individually empowered to appoint somebody from their county to represent issues of social equity inclusion, and somebody to represent issues of business and commerce. Typically, the business rep is somebody from the chamber, typically the chamber CEO, or somebody working in the economic and community development space. And then usually somebody, the social equity inclusion representative is sometimes it's somebody from government, a government agency that's focused on social equity issues, but it can be somebody from a nonprofit. We can help you scout your county for appropriate candidates and help you make that decision. But that is something that we're going to have each of the county mayors do before the full council meeting on the 22nd. Many of you have very viable appointments already, and so it may be much easier for you just to reaffirm those individuals, but that's some action that we'll need to get from you before that meeting. The other thing that we need to have happen will include all of the mayors. And so the executive board that meets monthly is made up of the officers of the body, It's made up of the minority or the social equity reps from the counties with the highest proportion of minority population. It's made up of the 2 state legislators, and then it's otherwise made up of a single representative from each of the counties that GNRC represents. So you might be asking, well, how do we determine the single representative from each of the counties that GNRC represents? And the answer to that is that we don't, you do. And the way that this will work is that the mayors within a given county should really caucus together and have a discussion about who they want to send to cast votes on their behalf at these monthly meetings. That said, everybody's invited and encouraged to participate in the discussions. As we get into the programming for the next year, you'll see, as rich as the conversation was at the Transportation Policy Board this morning, we have so many conversations that we need to be having about economic and community development, environmental quality, social equity, the aging and disability challenges that we face and need to get resources to across Middle Tennessee. And so it's really important that all of the mayors are at these monthly meetings, but per the bylaws, we'll have 1 vote cast per county, and that representative shall be determined by the mayors from within that county. So that's the other thing that we'll be helping you decide before the deadline that we've got up on the screen of September 10th. And again, if you're happy with your representative, maybe it's easier just for you to reaffirm that individual. But it is important to ask the question once a year as we approach the annual meeting. So that's a look at the homework that we have. We'll have 2 appointments to the executive board by the president. Per the bylaws, we'll have one of the mayors from across the region representing a large city. Large cities in general will have a seat on this executive board, as well as a member from the full council from a smaller community. We'll represent small cities across the region on this body. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Skipper? Okay, into the regular reports. First, the chair's report. All I would have to say is please get that information to GNRC before September 10th. I do like that you described the process by which you're supposed to select your county representatives. I would encourage you to do that. Engage all of your full board representatives to find that person that you want represented on the executive board. And please encourage all of your members, because there's only a fraction of us here, encourage everyone to come to that meeting next month. It's good, it's informative, it's a great opportunity for us all to get together and learn more about the organization, engage in the organization, and prepare for the coming year and get the budget passed. So that would be all in the chair's report. So back to you for the executive director's report, Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've got 2 items under the staff report. I'll cover the first. I'm going to ask Rachel Salava to join me for the second. On the first, I just wanted to congratulate Jessica Hill, our planning director, and Carson Cooper, our new senior planner over our regional planning program, on an award that they received through a competitive grant program out of the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation, who awarded GNRC some federal Clean Water Act money for watershed planning across Middle Tennessee. And so we've got a partnership brewing with the Cumberland River Compact to develop plans to protect the water quality in 2 watersheds within our region. We may be looking for an additional watershed to pursue. So if I don't mention your watershed, as though we all have a watershed, which we do, just reach out to us if you're interested. The first watershed that we're going to be developing a plan for through this funding opportunity is the East Camp Creek watershed up in Sumner County, Mare Holt. And the other is the watershed made up of the East Fork, Stones River, and Bear Branch water bodies. And so expect some really good work to try to protect water quality in those 2 watersheds over the next year or so between our staff, Cumberland River Compact, and then obviously experts on the ground in those communities. So congratulations, you 2, on a proposal well written. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rachel Salava. She is the Outreach and Advocacy Coordinator for our Aging and Disability Programs. She joined us a few months ago in a brand new position that we're investing in to help promote the work that we do to support quality of life for older adults across Middle Tennessee. Increasingly, it's challenging to identify providers out there who are able to service older adults, whether we're talking about in-home services or provide transportation or to get meals delivered, although we do have in the room the Cumberland HRA, which is the the ultimate partner of ours in that regard, but we do need some assistance in identifying some additional providers across the region. That'll be one of Rachel's targets as she builds networks across Middle Tennessee, but also just letting seniors know that there are options for them, there are resources for them to, age in place, well into their life. So with that, Rachel's got an announcement for you this morning, and I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon. It's nice to meet all of you. So my ask today is I'm sharing that during the National Council on Aging Fall Prevention Awareness Week, which is September 20th through the 24th, GNRC will be sharing and promoting content regarding how to reduce fall hazards and promote healthy and independent living among our older adults. And so we want to partner with local EMS and fire departments on how they play a role in reducing those falls and how we can increase prevention. I wanted to share that among those who are 65 and older, falls accounted for 17% of all 911 calls. And so in addition to responding to these lift assistance calls, our local fire department can also play a crucial role in connecting older adults with local agencies and resources, such as GNRC. And so my ask today is that you could connect me with your local staff person through EMS or fire department to see what their plans are for Falls Prevention Awareness Week, see if we can start that partnership and grow it as well. I will have some business cards on the table along with productive material, and I'd be happy to meet with you after. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. With that, Madam Chair.
I'll say thank you to Rachel, and welcome to you. Glad to have you with the organization. Any questions? Mr. Skipper and Ms. Lava? All right. Other business, anyone? All right. You know where that leads us. Out the door. Motion. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Second? Okay, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Everyone be safe traveling back. We'll look forward to seeing you next month on the 22nd at the annual meeting.
Hey, Michael, are you gonna reach out to us for appointments or who to get shade?
I'll do the typical email, and then if you need me
I
to
mean,
fill up the meeting, I'm
if
happy to.
mine are good, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or not to reappoint somebody, but if they're not, if I need to reappoint somebody, I'll do it.
We're not doing it.
I think, so if we're good there, then I'll save that email, and then I'll just email. I'll let you quarterback You're gonna be here no matter what, right?
I'm gonna give you a hard time. I've got 1 year left and we're wrapping the hell up. I'm second worker. I was a volunteer. You were there a long time ago when I was there volunteering. I tell you, it was really nice to meet you. I'm actually married. I'm a married representative. I just, when I saw you, I was like, when I volunteered.
Yes, she was Rutherford County. She was Rutherford County. So that's why she knows how to put up with.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, our
May 20th, actually over off
Are we on, so you can go to the
I'm not gonna, my nephew's in his
They'll calm you down.
My nephew's in his Drake's his parents.
I probably get, trust me, I've really, I've learned to mellow.
Hey, my nephew's in Paris today.
Oh, we wanted to do every time we try to find
Well, I think that's amazing.
Probably go to, I mean, end of August to the end of October. Really? Been to Australia?
Been to Morocco. Morocco's not even. It's
Close to Europe though, right?
It's like African, Eastern, French. Ariel, it's like a aerial tour. Not important. But man, that was one of the first programs.
Thank you.
I mean,
Really, I love.
Oh, you got my
we were Kobe. A lot of the traveling around.
Yeah, thanks for your help.
GWRA, but I don't know if there's
All right, we'll see you guys in town.
Anything for me?
Sure.